and welcome back to the AI Marketer's Playbook, where we cover actionable frameworks to help you leverage AI and marketing strategies in your business. I'm Audrey Chia, your host, and today I have with me Pietro. Now, Pietro teaches non-technical professionals how to use AI in a practical, effective way. He is also a lecturer in applied AI and has coached more than 100 business teams, including teams from Gartner, Sage, and Superhumor. Now, before becoming an AI educator, Pietro scaled a software company from 0 to 1 mil in under 9 months. He is also the founder of Enforce AI, an orchestration layer for AI agents, and is currently building Not Linear, an AI training platform for non-technical teams. So Pietro, super excited to have this conversation with you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Audrey. I'm really glad to be here, and thank you for the very nice introduction.
Awesome. Now, Pietro, before perhaps teaching AI, you talked about scaling a software company from 0 to 1 million in under 9 months. Super impressive. I'm curious to know, what was that experience like, and did it teach you about building systems?
That's a great question. Honestly, when I started that experience, I was very inexperienced, right? It was my second job. I have moved around a bit. I also studied in Singapore, by the way, and
Oh,
NTU. And then after I finished there, I moved to Berlin to work in a venture capital fund. And then I was like, hey, I want to live the full experience. I want to be immersed in the operation and to see the results of what I'm building, what I'm doing. So I joined this company. I was I think the second hire,
wow.
and it was pre-product. We had raised over 6 million back then, and we were just building the product with two very experienced and successful founders. And as soon as we pushed out the product, they basically gave me the responsibility to find the first clients, and then basically everything evolved from there. And it was super challenging experience, but I think the learning curve was super steep, and it basically helped me in every other subsequent step of my journey into creating my first company, because I really saw the process from, hey, we have nothing, to we have a product and it's generating revenue, recurring revenue, which consistent recurring revenue, let's say, which was an incredible experience, to be honest.
Wow. And I always think, right, it's really a journey to birth something to life, right? Especially when it's a startup, there's so much pain, but so much joy as well. And I too love working with startup founders. So, Pietro, then what made you decide to move into teaching AI? Because that's completely different from perhaps
Yeah.
what you have been doing.
That was absolutely unplanned, in the sense that at no point I thought that would ever be my calling and my journey. When it was, I think, 2 years and a half ago, I left the company, that when we after we reached the milestone of 1 million, which was something I was very happy about, and I thought it was time to start something of my own. So with a co-founder, we created not Enforce, which is the first company I ever created, incorporated, which was an orchestration layer for AI agents, which was basically working like an agency. We were developing a solution for our customer on our platform. Okay, and while it was a super like an incredible learning journey, it was also, and still is, a successful working company. It wasn't. I never felt it was my calling and what I wanted to do. It was a lot of customer support, mostly about keeping the customer happy once after we closed it. Which is, I mean, I don't think is anybody really vocation. Especially for me, it wasn't what I wanted to do. And while I was working for Enforce, and I was mostly focused on the commercial side of things, I started creating a lot of content and doing a lot of workshop, interacting a lot with people, and I had a great time. And I thought it was giving me more, like as a person, as a human being, to teach other people how to do these things, because I really enjoy the interaction with there, and the experience of having a group of people and bringing them from, hey, I don't know how to do this, to, hey, I have this set up in a couple of hours, or maybe over the time span of 2 weeks. And eventually that led me to launch first course, together with another person, a very successful founder, the founder of Relay App, which is an orchestration tool, another tool for to build workflow and agents. And eventually that worked really well, and it gave me the signal I needed to say, hey, maybe I'm gonna invest more time into trainings instead of actual deployment.
Wow. It's also interesting you mentioned that there's something within you that's a calling, right? I think a lot of folks, we wander through life not knowing what our calling is. And sometimes you just, get sucked up in the 9 to 5. You don't even realize that you're just a cog in a machine. But like what you say, you seem to have such a deep interest in teaching and coaching people. I'm curious to know, this is a side question, what
Yeah.
makes you excited about teaching people?
Honestly, I don't know, right? I mean, if you asked me even a year ago or 2 years ago or even before, I would have told you, no, there's no way I'm ever going to teach because I never had a particular patience for, to wait for other people to understand things. I always consider myself someone pretty fast. I have a strong ADHD, so attention deficit, when I have to do multiple times. And eventually, as I was learning this topic, because I mean it's a journey also for me of learning more, getting better, understanding more tools as Claude publishes update, as ChatGPT publishes update, I have to train myself, And after I learned those things, I went through the process of creating a mental shape to understand them and make them fit in my work as a growth operator, as a marketer, or as a founder. In this case, I'm operating as the three of them at the same time, and then I'm in the best possible position to explain it to other people. You know, and the part that makes the difference for me and that really makes me happy is selfishly when people ask me questions. I really like to respond to questions. I really like when people find the initial bit which I said interesting, and then when they want to know more about it. And I think, I don't know, I have this talent of answering questions, especially technical and training questions about a specific tool, about how to do something, which leaves people happier than before they asked the question. And
Wow.
seeing again, this is probably selfish, but seeing their gratefulness after they have learned something, it's a big payoff. When you develop a complex AI solution and you deploy it for them, or in every role I had before, the product was always something complex, and the person to see the result, the customer to see the results, will need to wait some time. In this case, the customer would see the results immediately, right? And
Yes.
he would be happy immediately because what I'm telling you is I can teach you something. If at the end you're happy with what I taught, you will be happy, and you eventually leave me a good review and create a nice flywheel. And in this case, it's immediate, which is something which I really enjoy.
Yeah, and I also realized that you have coached so many, right, non-technical professionals. I think that's the unique thing about what you do. So, can you tell me more, right? What do you think non-technical professionals struggle with most when they try to use or master AI?
Yeah. So there's two type of non-technical people. The non-technical people who love AI, okay, and those people invest, I don't know, maybe 50% on top of their normal day job into investigating what's new in AI, learning new things, using Cloud Code, and doing things by themselves and learning by themselves. This is maybe the 1%, okay, and those people don't need training. They do things by themselves. They are always the early adopter of everything, which is really cool. But you have to realize, to be in that 1%, you have to, have another job on top of your day job, right? Keeping up with AI, really understanding how it works, it's really a job. Okay, in the sense there's so much being published. So this, apart from this 1%, which is the one you see mostly on LinkedIn, right, and it's the most advanced people, let's say, everybody else, the 99%, has a daytime, a full-time day job. I'm talking about sales operator, marketers, any growth operator or person in operations. They have a day job. They have a company to run, a department in a company to run, their own tasks to do on a day to day. So they don't have time, and they don't want to invest the other 50% or on top additional 20, 30 hours per week keeping up with AI and learning AI from scratches. And these people uh, feel very overwhelmed in terms of, like, they see the difference as compared to the 1%. It's like, hey, I should be there. I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to fall behind. These
Yes.
people struggle the most to understand what they have to learn, and making a simple and basically understanding what makes the highest impact in their job. So what's most important for them to understand. So how I see it is, if you just give them one tool and an easy path to, hey, I'm doing this manually, to I can do it with, let's say, a Claude skill or a ChatGPT skill, regardless, but a simple workflow replacement, that specific process of, hey, I'm just going to give you one simple tool, one framework, I'm going to tell you just learn this, and you will be, I don't know, you'll free up 20% of your time, because the reality is just by using one instrument, which is Cloud Skills, you can really do that. It's going to be so much better, right? So I think what they struggle to close, I think what they struggle with the most is really understanding what's important to learn, and making it very practical. Don't just like get lost in, hey, I'm gonna learn the theory behind it. I'm gonna learn everything possible around it before getting to practical. Everything should be practical and applied to your day to day.
Yeah, I also think that from what I've observed, right, a lot of folks who want to achieve a certain outcome may not necessarily put in all the work to get there. So, like for yourself, right, I'm sure you have spent hundreds of hours keeping yourself up to date even before you can teach or train someone else.
Yeah, of course. I mean, for me, it's different, right? That's my full-time job, so I have to do it, right? But I understand, and I think every course I develop is taught with that mentality. Understand I'm dealing with busy people. These people
Yes.
have a job. I need to condense a lot of knowledge in a very short amount of time, and I have to make it in a way that is uh, practical enough that if a person just come to one session and see, is like, okay, this is very dense. After I leave, I'm going to be able to do this, and that. Okay, it's not.
Yes.
I'm teaching you the theory behind the AI, how LLM works. It's nice to know if you have time and if you're interested, but the reality, practically, it won't help you. Get more customer, close more revenue, or make your company a better company.
Can you give us an example, right, of somebody who attended your class? So let's say a business owner, right? What type of changes would they make to then see that growth in their business?
The idea I want to, like, I always say the courses are all for non-technical, right? And in general, I always say, hey, I'm bringing you from, I know how to use chat, so I know how to do the back and forth with AI, where I ask a question, I receive the response, and the value is in the conversation. Okay, so the value is in the back and forth with AI, where you get smarter by talking more with AI. You know more by talking with AI, from a point where you use AI to substitute yourself in tasks, right? So instead of, hey, Claude, can you help me rewrite this email? Can you help me redo this? Can you tell me this specific fact? You ask Claude, hey, Claude, can you generate a presentation for a customer based on a customer call which I had before, and here is where you can find the transcript. Or, hey, Claude, generate this PowerPoint presentation for me. So you assign Claude a task, and Claude does it for you. So the value is not anymore in the conversation. The value is in the task assigned to the AI and how it performs the task. If it does the task well, you're going to be happy, and you're going to consider, the AI had done a good job. And it's not in the response it gives you. Okay, so you still talk with it, but just assign him a task and for the task to be done. So I want to bring people from, hey, I know how to use a chatbot, to, hey, I master a full ecosystem, in this case Claude or OpenAI, and I can really substitute myself in task, and hence save a lot of time for myself.
I think also it's like that big picture thinking, right? Somebody who goes from just a back and forth conversation to like
Mhm.
mapping out something that's a bit bigger. Can
Yeah.
you give us even a more specific example? So let's say a business owner or like someone who is in go to market or ops. What can they actually do right now that most people aren't quite yet doing?
hmm Uh, so I'm going to talk about this because I use it a lot myself, and I did also a podcast on this with another host a couple of weeks ago, and people really enjoyed it. And basically, I run workshops myself. It's mostly to show people how I teach. Okay, so this workshop, this live session I run are 2 or 3 times a month, and it's really important that a lot of people come to this session, because it's my best shot of getting people to know me better, getting people to understand my style, if they vibe with how I teach things, right? So there has to be a lot of this event per month, and I have to drive a lot of traffic there. The important thing is here is, how do I drive consistent traffic to them? And something I do, and it's work for a workshop, but it would work also to drive people to your product or to a lead magnet you have created in general to drive traffic, is I find uh, other people, other creator or my competitors' posts that have worked really well on social media, and I have created an agent skill that extract the people who engage with this post, who put a like or a comment on this post, and then qualifies them against my ICP, my ideal customer profile. Okay, so I created a description of the customer profile. I give an example of hundreds of people who have taken my courses, and based on that, I ask in this case I use Claude, but you can replicate this with any LLM, and I ask Claude, hey, extract the commenters from this post, all of the link, all of the profile, enrich them, find out what their job role, match them against my ideal customer profile, and then for those one who are a fit for my courses, craft a small messages, sending them to this workshop. So for example, if I'm doing a workshop on Claude skills, let's say next week, and I see that there's like a few people who have made posts about skills and other people have commented or engaged, they probably are interested, so they have showed intent. I just give the URL to Claude, and Claude will return me a list of the people that have engaged with that post we are in my feed, in my ideal customer profile description, and then he will also give me a DM, a quick message to send, hey, I saw you engage with the post talking about skills. I'm running a session on the skills, a free session in the skills free, so it's a very soft CTA. Would you like to come? And that drives a lot of traffic and has a super high conversion rate.
Wow, and it's really interesting because you're looking for intent and you're looking for signals. And
Yeah,
I think to build out a workflow like this, you're not just asking Claude, hey, help me to find X number of people. You are giving it your way of prospecting,
exactly.
then using AI to make that process so much faster, right?
Exactly. That's absolutely correct.
So interesting. And what do you see, like, what do you think is the difference between somebody who casually uses AI versus somebody who is a strong operator? Is it a mindset thing, a skill set thing?
It's both, right? In the sense that you can't be a professional operator if you don't have both the skill and the mindset. Okay, if you just have the skills and if you don't put them in practice, they will be updated tomorrow. If you just have the mindset but then you don't have the skills, you'll end up only using chat. You know, hey, I want to use AI, but I only know how to use chat proficiently, so you will end up only using chats, right? So I think if you don't have the mindset, it's hard to get it, right? We will need a lot of motivation from you or someone imposing you to do that, or society at one point imposing you to do that to find the skills. If you have the mindset, it's worth investing in a basic training, in a basic, and it doesn't need to be with me, right? It seems like partial now because obviously I do training, but even if those trainings are just, hey, I'm going to invest, 2 or 3 days on YouTube just to learn how to master Claude or OpenAI and not pass the chat, I think that's an investment that compounds super quickly, right? And it's a return on that specific investment is really, really big in the sense that, I consider myself with AI, I can run basically 2 times the task I would have run before or even more, right? So I'm 100% more productive. What would you pay to duplicate yourself? Probably a very large amount of money.
Yes, and I also think it's the implementation is key, right? Because if you learn everything from one course but you don't implement it, I'm very sure the retention in your brain is
A
just not
hundred
going to
percent.
click. You really need to do it. And I think also thinking about how you would specifically apply whatever you've learned in your business and contextualize it. Because then your neurons start to fire up and be like, oh, okay, this is something I can try here. Great. And then you start making sense of it all. So maybe Pietro, one question on my end. Now you talked about people using AI like either like a chatbot or a search engine versus people who think about systems, right? So how does someone start thinking about a system? Like what is that higher level thinking?
I don't think, especially for most of the people, there should be too much higher level thinking. I think the way in which you make this sustainable, and as you said, you start applying and you start enjoying the application is not by saying, hey, I'm going to replace everything today. I'm going to take a week to replace everything. But it's mostly having a recurring mindset, as we were talking about before, that you can apply and that it's sustainable, right? The keyword here is sustainability. So what I always recommend to people is start from the smaller tasks and then grow from there, right? If you have a couple of things which you already do that would be good to be substituted, you start from the small unit, that small task, and you substitute yourself in a small task. And then as you gain confidence in the AI, you can expand. And instead of only having two steps of the final task, you will have four, five, and six, right? So I always tell them, instead of thinking the system before, okay, think about the things you do the most and where AI could save you the most time, and start from there. But don't make it overcomplicated. Start with a simple solution which you can test and build quick, and then develop that specific solution over time on a day-to-day basis. As you work, AI will also get better with you. Okay, so just always remember to keep updating that. Right. So instead of taking a Canva and saying this is everything I want to automate, start from something, a couple of things that, hey, I value, see the result in those little things, and then keep improving from there. And that will give you the motivation you need, as you were also saying before, to keep going and keep finding additional solutions. There are specific niches and specific areas where building a system can make sense, right? In orchestrating a system, but in general, I think that's a role of the people who build product, okay, or really are more in like more high level. Mostly, I think it's important for people to first understand firsthand in their day-to-day how it works, and then once you have that, you will also have a much better frame in your mind to think, hey, if I want to build something larger, maybe for your team, if you lead a team, this is how I would approach it, because I already have done it and already have used it myself in my day-to-day and master it for my personal self. I would think every leader would need to master it before teaching other people and bringing other people on board.
Got it. And for, let's say, like a business owner, right? A small business owner, it's like, okay, I get that I need to implement. I also understand some concepts and theory, but then they need to think about their business in general. And there are so many ways and aspects you can use AI, right? Whether it's like HR or whether it's like marketing, sales. Where do they begin? Like how do they even get started if they really want to do something?
For everybody it's different, right? There's no right or wrong answer. Like, my recommendation is always to delegate it to the people who are in those departments. Okay, as a leader, you can just promote a culture that promotes AI. You can give them access to tools. You can give them a budget. You can set targets for them in terms of, hey, this is what you need to achieve. You need to achieve, I don't know, time savings, or you need to achieve automation. It's mostly about setting the goals, but the actual implementation and turning these and understanding exactly, which process to automate first, it needs to start from someone who really understands that process and lives it in their day to day. Because eventually, he's going to be the only one who can actually automate it, right? Because it's not just about, hey, I want this automated. It's about, knowing the entire process and teaching an AI how to do that specific process so that it can repeat however you want that process to be done, okay? So as a leader, you would mostly focus on fostering a culture that promotes that and enabling people to do it. At times, this is, hey, I'm gonna give you a training. I'm gonna give a training to all of the people so that they learn how to do it. At times, it's just giving demonstration. At times, it's just organizing cross-pollination event within the company. Hey, this team is gonna show you what they did so that you can have a good idea. You guys are falling behind, right? So I think as a leader, it's mostly fostering that culture, and as a leader of an individual department, it's different, right? When you know in and out everything that happens, you can start saying, hey, this is where we spend most of the manual time. Manual time is always the core differential, right? Like in
Yes.
identifying, hey, we're spending a lot of time here doing things which are repetitive and manual, should be the start point of hey, this is where we're starting from.
Yeah, I also think for any business that's thinking about implementing AI, perhaps also starting with the end in mind helps. So instead of going on a big massive company, let's do this. Perhaps it's also understanding for each department, right? What are the basic or the main challenges that each department face, right? Then maybe from there figuring out this is something I would like to prioritize right now as a pilot project. And then scale that up. So really, like I think what Piotr you said, being able to combine the mindset and skill set, but also getting the buy-in from everyone, so that we can move together. I think that is always important.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
I also wanted to ask, right? So, I think we mentioned this term called the AI operator, or like the Gen or AI operator. What do you think that means? How will you define that? And what role does this operator play in, today's world?
For me, an operator is someone who grows a company. Okay, I started my career in venture capital, so the opposition was always, hey, I'm an investor. Okay, so I invest in company, I finance companies so that they can grow. Two, I'm an operator, so I am on the other side where I am growing a company. So anybody who works in a company, in a startup or in a larger company, and has an operational role, okay, which means marketing, sales, operation, customer success, all of the, let's say, more non-technical roles, because we're talking about non-technical operators, are on the operator side. So basically, for me, and I'm sure other people will have different definition, it's just as a duality on the opposite side of an investor. I invest in company, I operate company, and I try to grow the company myself. So that would be an operator. Non-technical is basically every department which is not IT and development.
And how do you think that everybody needs to become an operator, or do you think that there's going to be like one main operator that helps to drive all these initiatives?
So if we talk about the person who promotes AI, sorry, so maybe I misunderstood your previous question. Like you were talking about the Gen AI operator. In general, I think every person who works inside a company in a non-technical role should become like a Gen AI operator, at least to a point where he has literacy he uses for his personal activities. Okay, so in this case, I would differentiate what's personal of use. Okay, so augmenting yourself and being a better individual contributor to creating systems that everybody uses within a team. I think everybody should be an AI enabled individual contributor and an AI enabled operator, but only there should be people who are charged with the task of promoting larger system and larger products and also have accountability for those. Whenever something doesn't only touch one person but multiple, there should be someone who is accountable to bring that project forward. And to be honest, this is not something which is only related to AI, but in general, it's the same for any project pre-AI, right? To give someone accountability so it can drive the project forward. And I think the differential here is it an individual task you're trying to do, or is it something that touches multiple people across the company?
Yeah, I have a curious question. So everyone has a different level of AI expertise, right? So let's say somebody may feel like, I think this level is good enough, and somebody may feel like I'm not learning enough. For you, when you tell your students, right, how do they know whether what they're learning is enough or whether they need to like pick up pace? Because AI is moving so quickly, it can feel very overwhelming for most people. And I find that when that happens, people tend to just switch off and feel like, oh, it's too much. Let me just stick to what I know. So how do you overcome that internal blocker when it comes to AI overwhelm and whether people are actually doing enough?
I think it's always good to take a step back and realize that the people who are even literate and proficient with AI are already a minority. Okay, so there's approximately, I was seeing a graph the other day, which I also published it on LinkedIn. It was showing that approximately 1% of the population know how to use a coding scaffold, know how to use Cloud Cowork or more, let's say, more sophisticated AI tools. Okay, so there's a very small minority of people who are proficient, and a bunch of people who just use it on their day to day, and then most of the people who really just don't use it at all yet. Okay, so it's good to take a step back and realize, okay, if you are making the effort of learning even just the basic concepts, you're already in the top tier of AI user. Okay, it's never good to compare yourself to who's doing less, right? You should always aim for more. That's my philosophy. So you have to get to a point where you are comfortable using AI in your day to day, okay, and you don't keep looking for a better solution. What I always recommend is if you learn how to use one AI environment, be it Gemini, be it ChatGPT, or be it Claude, whatever fits and whatever you have available in your department, if you learn how to use all of the functionality of one ecosystem proficiently and you keep evolving with that ecosystem, okay, you will be proficient, and you are gonna be top edge. Okay, so if you just know how to do that, you're gonna be better than basically 99% of the people. Okay, so just by doing that and investing in one ecosystem, which is also easier because you cut a lot of the foam outside of what do I do, what do I use, that will
Yes.
already put you in a position where you should be in the best possible spot as compared to other people on the journey. Okay, and it also cuts out a lot of the FOMO. You know, you don't want to keep trying new things, keep updating yourself unless that's your job. For me, it's different,
Yes.
right? It's my job to keep up with the pace. For other people, I tell them just just forget about that. Invest time into getting proficient into the one tool which you use on your day to day, which becomes your co-pilot in everything you do. If you do that and you keep having one assistant, one ecosystem which assists you in your day to day, and you really know how to use all of the parts of it, you should be good. Okay, and past that, it's also very subjective, right? Do you want AI to be your future? You want to become an AI consulting? You want to start your AI business? Then you're going to have to go much more than that. But in the day to day, being that you want to keep developing a career which you have already started, by just doing this, you should be able to accelerate that specific process.
I love that. I also think it's the mindset of being able to learn, but not being afraid to fail in the process, because
Of
it's
course,
a new skill set, right? I'm sure it can be intimidating for some people.
absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. I completely agree.
Yeah. So I think also if you are listening to this, you probably are on the journey of learning. If you're listening to this, you probably are one of those folks who are interested enough to learn. So that's great already. So it's really figuring out, okay, now I'm going to learn this. How can I have maybe one key takeaway from this conversation, right, with Pietro, and then try implementing it. That could already help you to move one step forward. So speaking of that one key takeaway, I think Pietro, if you have any kind of hands-on demo that you can show us, I think our audience would really benefit to see what do you actually mean by building out workflows and what does that look like?
Absolutely. So just because I mentioned it before, I'm gonna show you the same workflow I used to find intent and extract intent, right? And I wanna show you the process I use to run it and then also turn it into something recurring I can do in my day to day. I'm trying to share my screen. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. Oh, yes. Okay.
Okay, perfect. We can see it.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm gonna show you the process of creating this workflow, this agent skill. So this specific process which I'm teaching the agent to do, and as we said before, just as a reminder, is what I'm trying to do here. What I'm trying to achieve is I found a LinkedIn profile which speaks about something which is something which I teach. Okay, something related to one of my courses or one of my free session, and I want to invite people to come to my free session and basically send a message to people who are in my ICP, in my ideal customer profile. Okay, so in this case, I'm gonna tell Claude. I open the Claude interface here using Claude Cowork. Hey, I found a LinkedIn post that speaks to my audience. I want to extract all of the people who commented on that post, including what they have commented on their LinkedIn profile. I'm telling Claude what to use. Okay, I'm teaching Claude how I would like this task to be done, how I would do it myself if I had to do it manually. I'm telling them to extract the information from the post. You can use this tool which is called Apify. I wanted to generate a list with all of the information you find. And then I post the LinkedIn post URL. What Claude will do is will understand my instruction, will follow the process of going through all of those steps. So making it simple now, he's using Apify. You can read here what he does. You can see here what he has planned to do. Find best Apify actor for LinkedIn, run actor on the LinkedIn post, generate commenter list and deliverable. So he plans ahead what he wants to do. And then I can see here, it goes through the process of finding those leads. And at the end, it just gave me a summary. Hey, this is the actor I used, how I used Apify. So it describes how we used it. If you're not familiar with Apify, it's a tool to extract information from social media. You can use it on LinkedIn, on X, or on other platform. And then it tells me, hey, what I found using that specific tool is 81 records, 68 individual people who commented on this post. These are the people I'm going to be scrutinized to find if they are in my ICP. And then I tell him, hey, I also want to enrich this specific list of people, and I tell him I wanted to use Apollo. Okay, Apollo is another tool. I use that to find additional information, their role, their email. I can just use it to find additional data points over those people. Apollo is just a database that includes a lot of information about a lot of people, especially in the B2B sector. So using that, I will basically tell him, okay, fine, now he returns a list of the people he has extracted, and then he later on in the conversation he will let me show you here what he returns. Okay, so this is the name of the person, the type of profile they had, the headline they had, the LinkedIn profile, and the comment they left on this very specific post. And then after that I tell him, okay, you can go ahead with the enrichment. Here he asks me, hey, I want to use Apollo to enrich and add information. Do you allow me to use it? It's going to use credits out of my account, so I always ask for permission. So I tell him yes, go ahead. It goes ahead and it returns me basically the same list, but this time it's going to be enriched. Okay, so as you can see here, it's all the same information we had before, but we also have the title, the company, the location, the email status, whether I could find the email. In this case, for this person, he has found the email. For this person, he has found the email, and so on. And it goes and continues with also the LinkedIn profile, etc., and the comment here. So at this point, I have basically a list of people enriched with all of the information, and I want to tell Claude, hey, this is my ICP. I give Claude a description of my ICP, my ideal customer profile. I give him the product I'm trying to sell, which is my course. Okay, so I link my course here. I want to tell him, hey, this is also where you can find the list of all of my past customer. I tell Claude you can browse to this page, which is a live page on the tool I use to run the courses, where you can find all of the information about those specific leads and those specific people who already taken part in my courses, so you can create a nice profile of a persona of the customer to replicate it. And then I want to basically return the same list but ranked from 0 to 5 based on how much they fit with my ICP. He goes through the process of doing that, and he will find, hey, across 81 people, 2 were in perfect fit, 12 were in a very high fit. Okay, so fit 4 and fit 5, and then the remaining one weren't particular fit. Gives me the very same list, but this time there's also the fit table. Okay, so it tells me how much in fit they are. And as the last step here, I want to tell him, hey, I want to craft a DM for these people, inviting them to my workshop. Okay, so I linked my workshop. He goes browse, understand what the workshop is about, create a connection between the workshop and the comment they left on the post, and then based on that, I want him to create a short DM I can send them. Okay, and I only want him to do this for the fit 4 and fit 5, so for the highest fit. And here basically what it does, it returns, hey, this is Jonathan Parson, this is Lady Pabilar, and then this is the message. Hey, I saw your comment on Robert Assid post about needing a repeatable starting point. That's exactly the point of a free session I'm running this Wednesday. We build a reusable go-to-market agent in Cloud Cowork, and then I left the link. Okay, super soft call to action, a relevant message because they commented there, and I can, most of the time, I can just copy and paste it. If you don't like the style, you can go back and tell him, hey, see, these are 3 examples of good messages which I sent in the past. Why don't you create similar version? And the last step here is, once you finish the process, you have taught Claude how to do it step by step. I'm gonna tell him, hey, I want to reuse it in the future. Can you turn this into a skill? Claude takes all of the content of the conversation and repackages into a skill. Okay, and then the next time you want to use it, you will just be able to tell, hey, use the skill, and then you send the link. Instead of going through the step-by-step approach, once I give him the link, he will return me the list of people and the messages. So next time, instead of investing whatever an hour and a half it took to do this, because obviously it's long back and forth within the iCloud needs to think a lot, it will take me 5-15 minutes. I give him a prompt, I receive an answer.
Wow. So what you do is you actually then go through this entire flow to make sure that it's what you're looking for, turn it into a skill so that then now you Claude knows exactly the steps it needs to go through, but you need to first force it through this system so that
Of
you know
course.
that you're in control and it's following your step by step, right?
Exactly, exactly. It's like when you hire someone in your team and you teach him how to do something. First, you show him step by step, then he does it once, you give him feedback, you make it better, and then after a couple of times, he will be able to do it entirely by himself.
Awesome, awesome. I think this is a super cool real demonstration that if you are listening to, you can also think about how you would break your own step-by-step process, right? And get Claude to go through that process with you before then turning it into a skill. So, Pietro, I would love to also know from you, right? How do you think the future of work is going to change for everyone? I know it's such a big question, right? But for people who are non-technical,
Yeah.
how do you think work is going to change and where does the human still come in?
I have no idea, right? Let's start by saying that I'm a very practical person. I try to focus on daily practical application rather than big picture. I think there are much better people more suited to give you a better answer. My 2 cents on the topic is, I think the big change that is coming in the next, let's say, 2 to 5 years is everybody will need to turn and develop the managing skills. Okay, even individual contributor will stop being just individual contributors because they eventually they're not just managing their own time; they are managing their own time and the credits and the time of the AI, right? So instead of doing everything themselves, now I'm assigning a Claude to do this task which we just saw on the screen, and I'm assigning another agent to do something different. So instead of like using my own time, I'm just orchestrating what effectively are teammates or what performs as teammates, right? So this mental switch should be, I'm not going to consider myself just an individual contributor anymore, but I will consider myself as an orchestrator and as a manager of resources. Okay, when you mean resources, you can manage people and AI or both of them together. Okay, so everybody should invest more in their managing skills and then understanding how to manage AI so that he can actually multiplicate and live in this more, let's say, more fast-paced work, right? So I think that's the only change which I really see clear that needs to happen, and so it also gives you an idea of the type of skill you need to develop.
I love that. One additional thing that I perhaps would add is we may not know what's going to happen in the future, but I think learning how to have clarity in your thought
Yeah,
processes, learning how to learn fast, I think these two things are very important in the world of
absolutely.
AI.
With AI or without AI, it were important before, and they are just even more important now.
Absolutely. So, Pietro, thank you so much for hopping on the show. Before we wrap up, I have a few rapid fire questions for you. Are you
Okay, let's
ready
go.
for that?
Yes,
All
go.
all right. Firstly, what is one AI tool you use almost every day?
Close.
What is one task people should stop doing manually?
Oh wow. There's so many. This one is a simple yet hard question. I know it should be fine, but nothing straight comes to my mind. Um, I think preparing presentations. Cloud design
Ah,
is really great. I would tell people, hey, learn how to use cloud design, and that will give you like a real big edge.
interesting. I agree on that. And if you are a marketer, you have to learn how to use it. So,
Yeah,
question number
agree.
3: what is you think the most underrated AI skill?
I think the simplest one would be building and developing skills. Okay, it has the largest possible impact. What we have just seen, it might sound simple, but then people don't do it in their day to day. Just learning how to apply those in your day to day will give you the highest return on your time investment you could possibly have ever, I think.
What is the best agent for a non-technical founder to build? If there is one agent that you can tell a non-technical founder to build, what would that be?
This one I can't answer. I would there's not one. It depends on what type of company they need to have. Anything that deals with lead finding and lead enrichment, I think it's the highest leverage one if you are in anything high. all things similar to what we have seen, I think it's just a waste of leads and eventual money not to use this kind of tools.
Finally, what is one piece of advice you would give a non-technical professional trying to navigate the world of AI?
I would go back to what we said before. Screen out all of the noise, focus on one ecosystem, get really proficient into that, be it Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, one of the top three. I would focus on those. Be really good with it and really use it in your day to day and get used to managing not only your time but also the time of Claude, Gemini, or ChatGPT. And that will make you a much better operator already and give you a higher compounding effect than looking around and trying to do everything.
I love that. So thank you so much for joining us, Pietro. Now, who should reach out to you and where can they find you?
Absolutely. Everybody who wants to learn, even if it's just from free resources or free session, I run many of them. You can find me on LinkedIn, it's my main channel, on Substack, and you can find all of my courses and live free session Maven, which is a trading platform I use. I will also send you, Audrey, all of the links so people can directly use those links.
Definitely. So we'll be linking the Maven links in the comments as well as Pietro's handle. So do make sure you check out his content. He is such a talented individual who has a knack for explaining very complicated concepts in simple terms. And I'm sure that you will also find as much value as I do. So thank you folks for tuning in and don't forget to hit the bell for more AI and marketing insights. We'll see you next week. Take care.